don't know if you can see the disgust on my face. The tom was already on the ground. He was down in there. I guess you can figure out what happened next. Gone. Stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to use your fishing rod to help you get more deer. I wonder if I can cast through there. Okay, you guys think I'm probably crazy, but when you look at fishing and hunting, there's some correlations and some things you can kind of compare and utilize to help us get better as hunters. So in the woods, we're looking for an area that a deer can walk through with our bow. Now with the rifle, it's different, but so I'm specifically talking about a bow that we can get a shot into. But the key that we need to remember is the fact that the arch of the arrow, or the arc of the arrow, rises above our line of sight. Now I can't tell you how many inches above the line of sight your bow or your arrow is going to fly because of the speed, weight, etc., draw length and all that stuff. But we need to understand that it does rise above the line of sight. So if there's some obstacles in the way, AKA leaves, tree limbs, brush, whatever, you know, if you're hunting in the field, grass, weeds, then we need to understand, okay, there's a potential there that the arrow's going to hit it. So with my fishing rod, all I'm doing is coming out here, and I've got, you know, some weight attached into my fishing rod. I don't know how many ounces this shot is, or this sinker, whatever you want to call it. But I'm trying to visualize lanes that I could actually cast into. Now, I'm not going to cast because more than likely I'm going to get tangled up in these trees. But I'm just visualizing, looking through there, okay, where's an area that gives me enough room to cast my rod. Now, obviously, I need a lot more room with the rod, but I'm visualizing my sinker flying perfectly straight and going toward a deer's vitals. And it's the same with the bow. You know, you got your line of sight, and then you got the arc of the arrow, and it's actually dropping into those vitals. The arrow doesn't fly perfectly straight. It's got to rise above the line of sight to actually hit the target. So when we're out in the woods and we're looking and we're setting up for tree stands and you're trimming and getting if you're on private land, obviously if you're on game lands or public land, you can't do that. But if you're on private land and you can break some limbs or trim, then you need to look for those things that potentially can get in the way. Now on game lands, we need to get set up in areas that give us more openings. Now it's very difficult in some places because of the foliage and how thick it is, especially during early season. You can look around right now. I've got my shirt hanging up here in the back, and you can see all the green leaves behind it. So the foliage is pretty thick this time of year. And it depends on the density of the woods. This is fairly dense in here. I got a lot of small sapling trees in here. I don't have much undergrowth, not many briars, but I've still got to be cognizant of the fact that these type of obstacles or obstructions can deflect my arrow. And believe me, I've been there. I'm thinking of one right now where I shot at a buck and I remember seeing the arrow dropping in to where I thought it was going to hit, and it hit a limb. And I never found my arrow, never saw the buck again either. So when you're getting your setup in your tree stand, make sure you've got enough room. Now, I'm not going to say you got to have at least 1 square foot all the way around your arrow. Now, remember, your broadhead is going to be smaller than your fletching most of the time. So your fletching can actually make contact as well. But your arrow is actually going to make an arc and come into the vitals. So if you're in an area, look at this, I'm already hung up on this limb right here. If you're in an area that's got a lot of foliage, you got to be careful of that. The last thing you want to do is wound a deer and lose it, and and never pick up the trail, and it's going to go off and suffer. Focus on setting your tree stand up in areas where you can shoot with little or minimal obstructions. Now, that's, like I said, it's going to be difficult to do, especially in early season, and depending on the density of where you're at, whether you're in a select cut, clear cut, dense woods, whatever. But don't take shots where there's little opportunity for your arrow to get in there. If you're trying to take a shot and you've got that much room at 30 to 40 yards, 2 or 3 inches, more than likely you're going to deflect your arrow and you're going to miss. Okay, so like I said before, I can't tell you how many inches above the line of sight your bow or your arrow is going to fly, but it does do that. You can research it yourself and find out, so be careful of that. The other thing too is, and I'm in the woods, and I was doing some casting before I came up here, and I was casting, 30, 35 yards. That's a good way to see your distance and be able to judge the distance back and forth. So if I'm out there casting and I'm watching my sinker fall 35 yards away, I can visualize that. And when I get in the woods, all right, that's 30, 35 yards. Most people are using rangefinder, so you don't have to worry about that. But there's a lot of times where you got the rangefinder in your backpack or it's in your pocket and you turn around and boom, the deer's right there, and you don't have that opportunity. So if you're out there and you're casting your rod, that's a lot more fun than just walk out there and ranging the distance or walking the distance off. Cast your rod out there a little bit, measure it off, visualize how far that is, and you've got that in your mind, and then that will translate when you go into the woods. You can start being able to identify distances faster and more accurate than you did before. And plus, when you go fishing, you're ready to cast out there and get that bass or that crappie also. So we're gonna walk around here. This is on private land. This is actually on my land, and I put out some mineral licks this year, and I'm gonna go in and we're gonna take a look at that. So stay tuned. I'm gonna go check my mineral licks. So as you can see, it's fairly steep in here. This property I've got drops off. You can't even see the bottom right there. Drops off pretty steep. So what I've done is, I actually had a select cut. Huh, looks like I've got a tree that just got blown down right here. So that's gonna give me an opening. Maybe I'll save that information for another video. But these deer, in the past, obviously I've hunted this quite a bit. The deer like to hook around because this is a very high peak of elevation on this ridge right here. So they hook around and then swing back in. There's a little holler on the other side. So they've been doing this for years. So what I've done is I've gone in and put in a mineral lick. And obviously you can see where I cleaned the leaves out a couple weeks ago. But you can tell the deer have already back in it. And now they actually dug this hole out. I didn't dig that out. So that's how much they've been using this over the past few years. And it's gotten to the point now where it holds water. So it's very difficult sometimes to get the minerals to stay in there. And you're thinking, well, why would you waste your money on minerals? I believe that adding minerals is a good track right there. Let me hold my train of thought. I don't know if it's a doe or a buck. Hope it's a buck. I saw a couple of good, decent bucks in here last year. Of course, obviously, when he came through here, I wasn't able to stand. That's the way it happens sometimes. But I got with one of my local feed and seed stores that I go to quite a bit, just to get lawn and garden stuff. And they got in touch with the state's wildlife. So they had a biologist come over there, and based on his recommendations, they made their own mixture. So this is kind of a home brew. This is not a commercial brand or anything like that. This is just a local feed and seed store. And I'm sure it's got salt, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, and other things in it. I don't know what else it's got in it. I didn't ask them to tell me their secret recipe or formula for this mineral lick, but I'm telling you, it's worked for me. Now, I'm not trying to advertise for them because I'm in no way linked to them, but I'm just saying that minerals can work. Now, I have never shot a deer over either one of these mineral licks. I'm just showing you the one. I've got one on the other side of the ridge. But I just believe it brings the deer in. And when I had this select cut done, you can see how thick it is in here. I wanted this area here to be able to hold deer. The select cut obviously opened the canopy up, let some of this lower foliage grow up. That gives the deer more food. It's called tonnage per acre. And clear cuts are one of the most abundant producing as far as volume of food of anything you've got. Once you have mature timber and the canopy grows up, it shields the sunlight, and you've got very little low story growth that the deer can feed on. Now, obviously, if you got acorns or oak trees in there, they can feed on the mast when it grows. But by opening up these areas and letting the sunlight come in, I've got more foliage growing around. So that's all I did. I had a select cut come in, a timber company come in, do a select cut, take the logs out, the trees out, and it's worked pretty good. So all I did after that was, add me some minerals in here, help possibly bring some bucks in, give them some nutrition that potentially can make their antlers grow a little better. And like I said, I've never shot a buck over one of these mineral licks. It'd be nice if I could, but I haven't. Typically by September, our bow season in my state, North Carolina, comes in second week. It's usually after Labor Day, pretty much second week of September. And a lot of times by September, you know, they're really not just using the minerals anymore. Antlers have already hardened by that time. Now, I'm not saying they're actually rubbing trees. Sometimes I do find some rubs early, but most of the time antler growth is stopped by September, that time frame. But I use the minerals, like I said, for those other purposes. So I'm in here just trying to have some fun. This is almost the end of June, okay? So what are we gonna be doing? I mean, July, for my schedule, is when I start shooting my bow again. It's sad to say I haven't picked up my bow since, I guess, January, last time I went deer hunting. So actually it was just before that. We have rifle season comes in, but then bow season comes in right after rifle and finishes out the year. And the last day of our deer season is January 1st. So it's been since December since I picked up a bow. Yeah, shame on me. So my routine is, as soon as July comes in, 1st of July, I do my 3 day a week. I treat it just like working out. I give my muscles time to rest, recuperate. So I do, 3 days a week and let that run on into August. Now, one thing I used to do that I don't do anymore is a lot of times during hunting season, we just stop practicing. I mean, we practice for a month, 2 months, or whatever your schedule is. And we feel like, okay, we're good enough, let's go in there. But the thing with it is, practice, shoot all the way through the season, okay? It doesn't matter that you're hunting because we're not releasing arrows all the time. A lot of times we're going there sitting, waiting, nothing comes in, especially for me on game lands. Hopefully that's going to change this year. But practice all the way through the season, all right? Keep shooting all the way through the season. That way you make sure that your skills are where they need to be, they're razor sharp, you're accurate, because the last thing we want to do is, wound the deer and it run off and suffer. So just give me a few tips. I'm just trying to get out in the woods, get back into the groove. Turkey season ended in May, mid-May in my state, so I haven't been back in the woods that much. I mean, other than to put the minerals out. I actually planted 2 apple trees on my property last year. Had to fence around those to keep the deer away from them. So I've been checking on their progress. Just trying to do some small things to make my property better. Maybe I'll do another video on that as we get closer to bow season, which, like I said, here we are, about a week and a half left of June, and we're going to the 2nd week of September. So you're looking at, 9-10 weeks left to go. And that's really, when you get down and look at it from a practicing standpoint and getting everything ready. Now, if you're getting a new bow, you better get on it. Now, I've got the bow that I have set up for last year and also have a backup bow. If you're getting a brand new bow, you need to be out there now shooting, because it takes a lot of shots to get the string and the bow and everything set in and the stretch. So I'm out here trying to have fun. I'm trying to out here. I enjoy getting in the woods. Man, I'll tell you what, this is my stress reliever. I can get out here and just relax, unwind. I'm telling you, go out here and enjoy what God's created. It's awesome. So getting back to the arrows, just remember, and you can go on the internet and you can probably find a lot of videos where people have already done it. So I'm not going to redo what someone else has already done. Just trust me, it's true. The arrow does arc. And if you're not careful, it's going to arc into something, okay? And you don't want to be hitting limbs when you're shooting at a deer or anything else, whatever you're hunting. So remember that. And then, like I said, with the fishing rod, just use it, because I've got this fishing rod, I'm thinking, there's no way I would cast in there, it's too thick. Same with the arrow. Make sure you've got enough room front to back as the arrow travels, because it's, more videos. I keep thinking in my mind more things that we can talk about. But as you shoot an arrow, there's several different angles that you can look at. The angle of the deer from a vertical standpoint and a horizontal. Is it quartering towards you? Is it perfectly broadside? And then the angle of your tree stand, how high you are up in the tree. So there's a lot of things, and that can affect, the vertical angle of the deer. So it's a lot of things you got to remember when we get in there, because you don't want to do all that practice and get in the woods, and then all of a sudden you got a perfect opportunity, and then we pick the wrong area to release the arrow and we hit a limb. Yeah, you don't want to do that. I know I don't want to do that. I've done that a couple of times, unfortunately. And I've hunted enough to where I should know better. So I was brainstorming. I said, I'm gonna take my fishing rod in the woods. No, yeah, I could probably cast there. And it makes me think, okay, same mindset with my arrow. When I'm in a tree stand, if I'm on game lands, I can't cut or take any limbs out. I've got to get set up. Yeah, I can shoot there. No, I can't shoot there. And just be mindful of that. Keep that on the forefront when an animal comes through, because we try to predict where the deer are going to come in, and a lot of times it's a crapshoot. We're doing the highest probability. What's the highest probability that the deer is going to come from this direction? And that's what hunters do. We try to get set up to where we're perfectly in position that the animal comes through this opening. And it gets worse when you try to video it, because I've been doing these videos now. This will be the third year. I think I've had 2 that came in perfectly. They didn't, no problems at all. And it's the same thing with turkeys. I think I had 1 or 2 come in like that, but most of the time it's a rodeo. Oh, he's coming in this way. You're having to move around and jockey in position, move the cameras and everything. So it's the same when you don't take a camera. I mean, we're scouting, trying to pinpoint with the highest probability where the animal is going to come from into this area that we've already got our minds made up. This is going to be a perfect alley or a perfect lane that I can shoot through, make a good shot, and put the deer to the ground. Because, like I said before, you don't want to wound the deer. We want to be as accurate as possible in the vitals so we can quickly and humanely harvest the animal. Last thing you want is one of those all-day track jobs. The deer don't want that either. All right, so I'm gonna grab my fishing rod. I think it looks a little out of place up here, Not many people take their fishing rods to the woods. So I'm gonna grab my fishing rod. I'm gonna head back out of here. Hope you like this video. We'll see you next time. Hey, maybe I need to go fishing. That's probably what I need to do. Take it to another hobby.